Today, we will be explaining every new archetype in Bleach Volume 2. Use the timestamps below to get to your favorite deck. So we'll be looking over the first deck, Squad 0. So for the purpose of this guide, we will not be going over old archetypes, just because I thought it'd be more interesting to go over new archetypes that will be discovered in Volume 2. So our first deck, Squad 0, color purple of Volume 2. The star of the deck is the 4-cost Ichigo Kurosaki with 4000 BP that says Nullify Impact. And if there are 10 or more cards in your removal area, or 2 or more Squad 0 affinity cards with unique names in your removal area, this character gains damage 2. If there are 4 or more Squad 0 affinity cards with unique names in your removal area, this character gains impact 1. So it's definitely powerful, especially for a non-raid card, because at full power, this card gets damage 2 and impact 1. So next we have our 4-cost removal, Shatatsu, that says place up to 3 Squad 0 affinity cards from your hand into your removal area. Choose one character with 3000 or less BP on your opponent's frontline and sideline it. For each card placed from your hand into your removal area with this ability, add 1000 to the BP range of the character you may choose. Then for each card placed from your hand into your removal area with this ability, draw a card. So this removal card is especially powerful because you can take away cards you don't need to fuel the power of the special, and then you can draw cards to dig for cards that you will need in future turns. So next is the 4-cost raid, Senjumaru, that says, when played, place any number of Squad 0 affinity cards from your hand into your removal area. Choose up to one character with 2500 or less BP on your opponent's frontline and sideline it. For each card placed from your hand into your removal area with this ability, add 1000 to the BP range of the character you may choose. So a very versatile sideline ability. So as you see, these two cards really require cards in your hand. So how do we get more cards into our hand? We have our 3-cost Ichigo that says when played, select the required energy amount, then reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Add up to 1 character card with the same selected required energy amount from among them to your hand. Place the remaining cards into your sideline. And also we have the 2-cost site, the Royal Palace, that is played active. Activate main, switch to resting, look at the top card of your deck. If that card has Squad 0 affinity, you may reveal it and add it to your hand. Otherwise, place it to the top of your deck or into your sideline. So as you see, both of these cards require you to know the top of the card of your deck to really be effective to gain that extra draw. And noticeably, both of these cards are from set 1. But as you see, there's no hard once per turn on the Royal Palace. So if you have multiple copies of this card, you can draw up to 1 card per copy of Sight every turn. So we'll be looking at cards that allow you to fuel the synergies of these draw cards. We have our 0-cost Tenjiro that says when played, look at the top card of your deck, then place it on the top or bottom of your deck. We have our 3-cost Oetsu that says when played, look at the top card of your deck, then place it on the top or bottom of your deck. And then we have the 4-cost Ichigo that is a color trigger, and this is fairly powerful because it says when played, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and place them on the top of your deck in any order. So this not only sets you up for this turn, but also the future turns or other multiple cards you may play, like if you have multiple copies of the site. It also says when attacking, select the required energy amount, then reveal the top card of your deck. If that card has the same selected required energy amount, you may add it to your hand. If you do, place 1 card from your hand into your removal area. If you do not add a card to your hand, place the top revealed card on the top of your deck. So it basically has the same revealing effect every time you attack with Ichigo also. So overall, the deck has fairly good strengths. The first one is good removal, so in the form of our special, but also in the form of our raid that allows us to sideline characters depending on what we have in our hand. And also, we have top deck manipulation, so we can set up future turns in a way that we can see the top of our deck multiple times during the turn to really allow us to plan for our next plays. And also we have excellent card draw in the form of the Scythe and other cards. So basically every turn we may be drawing 2 or 3 cards depending on what we have on the field. The weaknesses of the deck, we have only 4 raids of the deck since our most powerful card is the 4-cost non-raid Ichigo. So not saying that raids are more powerful than non-raids, but the fact that we have less raids means that we'll be less likely to hit raid triggers. So on your opponent's turn, when they hit you for life, if you have a raid trigger, you can raid on your card during your opponent's turn. So this not only allows you to play a strong card on their turn, but it saves you an action point because you're playing it for free. Also, the raid Sujamaru says that we need to remove cards from our hand. So if we play her early without having a proper board setup, it might take us a while to refuel our hand. So the initial grade for this deck, I would give it a B+. So the next deck is the Kenpachi Green Bleach deck. This will feature the new 4-cost Raid Kenpachi. So as you can see, we will not be playing the 4-cost Kenpachi special, not because it's a bad card. It's just that for consistency purposes, the 4-cost Toshiro Raid is just better since we have more Toshiros. But for flavor purposes, if you want to play the Kenpachi special, definitely go for it. So of course, the new 4-cost Kenpachi Raid is the new standout card. It is a raid card, it has impact 1, and it says if the base card of this rated character has 4 or more required energy, this character gains all the abilities listed below. So we have, if this character leaves the field due to one of your opponent's abilities or battle, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline instead. If you do, place the top card from this rated character into your sideline. Also when played, this character gains 1000 BP and damage 2 until the end of the turn. So definitely a house of a card. Next, we have some new cards that will help the consistency of the deck. We have our 0-cost Ikkaku that says when played, draw a card, then place one card from your hand into your sideline. We have our new 1-cost Toshiro that says when played, if 6 or more other 13 court guard squads, affinity cards are on your field, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, add up to one Toshiro card from your sideline into your hand. So this is a great way of recycling the Toshiro raids. Next, we have our 2-cost Yumichika that says if you have a combined total of 3 or more other 13 court guard squads, affinity cards on your field, this character gains 1 energy generation. So it's a faster way of building up 2 energy cards into the back line. And this notably is synergistic with the new 3-cost Rangiku that says when played, if Toshiro is on your field, play up to 1 green character card with 2 or less required energy and 1 AP cost from your hand set to resting onto your field. So the main target would be the card that we just saw, the 2-cost Yumichika. Next, we have the new 1-cost Yachiru that says activate main, switch to resting, sideline this card. Choose up to 1 Kenpachi card on your field, it gains impact +1. So this is a great late game card that allows us to push for that extra 1 damage to hopefully seal the game. The strengths of this deck are that we have definitely a lot of big boys, so our Kenpachis also have an effect that counters opposing BP reducing effects. So decks like the purple Code Geass deck or the purple Bleach deck will definitely not be able to use their cards to reduce our BP. Next, we have a strong freeze effect, that is the set 1 Toshiro. So don't forget that if you have 6 affinity cards, you can use it to freeze the backline. Otherwise, we have weaknesses of the deck. Noticeably, like any other affinity deck, we need board setup to get the full potential of our abilities, which in this case is 6 other cards. And also for this specific deck list, we have a lack of card draw. So let's say if our opponent was able to silent a lot of our cards, it'd be very difficult for us to build back our board back up to the required board setup to unlock our full abilities. The initial grade of this deck is A. So this is mainly because Toshiro, the green Bleach deck, was definitely a standout before, and we're getting a lot of new cards that increase the consistency and also late game power of this deck. So the next deck is the Bambietta Zombies deck. The standout of this deck is the new 4-cost 2-action point Giselle. This is a non-raid card. So it says when played, if you have a combined total of 3 or more other Bambi affinity, Zombie affinity, or Bambietta cards on your field, draw 2 cards. Then place 2 cards from your hand into your sideline. Also activate main, if on the front line, once per turn, sideline 1 character on your field without zombie affinity. If you do, place up to 1 yellow character card with zombie affinity from your sideline set to active onto your field. So what are the zombie cards that we want to bring back with Giselle? We have the most important one, the 4-cost Bambietta, that is 4000 BP, that says when played, if this character is played with an ability of one of your characters, draw a card. So for example, the card that we just showed, the Giselle, is great for this card synergy. Also it says activate main, pay 1 AP, once per turn this character gains impact 1. So it's also a good late game card to push for that final damage. And we have another zombie card, the 3-cost Toshiro, that says when played, if this character is played with an ability of one of your characters, like the Giselle, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. So this is good when we want to push for damage, but it also synergizes with the card from set 1, the 4-cost Raid Bambietta, that allows you to sideline an opposing character if it is rested. The new cards that will help the deck are the 1-cost Lil Toto, that says when played, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Add up to 1 Bambi's affinity or Bambietta card among them to your hand. Place the remaining cards into your sideline. If you added a card to your hand, place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. So this is a very strong card in this deck because it helps set up your sideline. Effectively, even if you don't hit the card that you want, you'll be milling 3 cards into your sideline. So very, very good card for this deck. Next, we have our 0 cost Giselle. That is, when played, draw a card, then place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. And we have the 3 cost Uryu. That says activate main, place 1 card from your hand to your sideline once per turn. Choose one of the abilities listed below. We don't have Yubaha, so we can't choose all of them. But we can choose between choose 1 character on both your frontline and energy line and swap them. Or this character gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So noticeably, you don't have to have this card in your front line to discard a card. So you can keep it in the back line and discard any of the zombie cards that you want to bring back. Next, we have the new card, the 3 cost Candace, that says when played, all characters with 1000 or BP on your opponent's front line lose 500 BP until the end of the turn. So this is very good because it synergizes with one of the older cards, the 2 cost Bambietta, that says when played, choose up to 1 character with 3500 or less BP on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. So now you can switch to resting an opposing character that has base BP of 4000, and then once that card is rested, you can raid to place your 4 cost Bambietta that allows you to sideline an opposing character that is rested. So you can finally sideline a character with 4000 BP with the new Candace. And don't forget, let's say you hit color trigger on your opponent's turn and you rested their card, you can always use your Bambietta to sideline that character if it's rested. So the strengths of the deck, so you have a sideline toolboxing and recycling. So your entire sideline acts as a second hand because you can bring back a lot of cards depending on the situation that you are in. And also with the Giselle, you have very good card draw because you'll be drawing 2 cards, then placing 2 cards into your sideline. And you also have conditional but good removal. So your Bambietta can sideline basically any opposing character, but it just has to be rested. So now we'll be showing the weaknesses of the deck. So like any other combo deck, you definitely need to set up the combo to get the full potential of the deck. So if you can't do that, if you can't get all the cards in the sideline that you need, a lot of your effects really fizzle out. Also, cards like this 3 cost Toshiro don't really do anything unless there's a combo piece attached to it. So this is something important to consider. Also, the special of the deck is conditional. It says choose 1 character on your opponent's front line with BP equal to or less than 1000 multiplied by the combined total of Bambietta and Bambi affinity cards on your field and sideline it. So you need 4 affinity cards to be able to sideline a character with 4000, which is the baseline. So it's good in the end game, good in the middle game, just may not be possible to use it in the early game if your opponent can rush out a 4000 BP character. And also, the Bambietta, just like in set 1, is a very bad raid trigger because it says when played, if it is your turn, choose up to 1 resting character on your opponent's frontline and sideline it. So effectively, it has no effect when you raid it on your opponent's turn. And also the deck only plays 4 raid cards, so there's not many raid triggers that you can actually use on your opponent's turn. The initial grade of the deck is B. So the next deck that we have is the hybrid blue deck. So we did a full deck profile of the 2 different archetypes, the Ichigo deck and the Rukia deck. So I thought it might be interesting to kind of mash them together and show what it would look like if we played both of these archetypes together. So this is the hybrid blue deck. So of course, the standout of this deck is the 4 cost raid Ichigo that says when played, choose up to 2 characters with 2000 or more BP on your opponent's front line. They lose 1500 BP until the end of the turn. Also activate main, once per turn, place 1 Zangetsu or Getsuga in its card name from your hand into your sideline. If you do, draw a card and give this character 1000 BP, and when attacking, draw up to 1 card until the end of the turn. So definitely a very strong card if you're able to set up the synergies. Next we have Rukia, the raid Rukia, that says when played, if on the front line, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. If it is your turn and there is a character with 2 or more base AP costs on your front line, switch it to resting. The chosen character remains set to resting until this character leaves the front line and set. So basically it's a forever freeze effect until Rukia gets removed. Even if she gets removed on your opponent's turn, their card only unrests at the end of the turn. So it saves you from an attack at the very least. So what are the 2 AB cards that Rukia will need to have her effect go through? We have our 4 cost 2 action point Byakuya that says when played, choose one of the following. If a Rukia has been played onto your field this turn, choose up to 1 of your AP cards and switch it to active. Also, you can choose reduce the AP cost of the next Rukia card you use from your hand this turn by 1. Also, when attacking, draw a card. And we also have our 4-cost 2 action point Ichigo that says when played, choose up to 1 character with 4,000 or less BP on your opponent's front line and return it to their hand. Also activate main if on the front line once per turn, draw a card, then place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. And lastly, we have our 3-cost 2 action point Renji that has nullify impact. Also, when played, you may place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, choose up to 1 of your AP cards and switch it to active. Also activate main once per turn. If there's another character on your front line with 2 or more base AP costs, switch this card to active. So another card that synergizes well with the 2 action point cards of this deck is the 3-cost Rukia that says when played, draw a card, then place 1 card from your hand into your sideline. But if there is a character with 2 or more base AP costs on your front line, you may draw a card instead. So another that synergizes with the 2 AP cost cards. So another aspect of this deck is that we want to be discarding cards with our Ichigo. So the Ichigos that discard are the 2-cost Ichigo, the 0-cost Ichigo, and the 4-cost 2 action point Ichigo that we just saw. So the next cards will be the cards that we want to be discarding. We have our 2-cost His Name is Zangetsu that says draw 2 cards. When this card is placed from your hand into your sideline by an ability on a blue Ichigo Kurosaki on your field, draw a card. We also have the 0-cost Zangetsu that says when this card is placed from your hand into your sideline by an ability on a blue Ichigo on your field, that Ichigo may gain. This character cannot be blocked by a character with 3,000 or less BP until the end of the turn. We also have our 2-cost Orihime that says when this card is placed from your hand into your sideline by an ability on a blue Ichigo on your field, choose up to 1 Ichigo on your field. It gains. This character cannot be chosen by your opponent's character or trigger abilities until the start of your next turn. And lastly, we have our special, the 3-cost Getsuga Jujutsu that says choose 1 character with 3,500 or less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it. But when this card is placed from your hand into your sideline by an ability on a blue Ichigo on your field, you may place 1 card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, that Ichigo gains double attack until the end of the turn. So this is one that you really want to be discarding with the Raid Ichigo because you'll effectively be drawing 2 cards because your Ichigo will have 2 attack, and he gains when attacking draw up to 1 card. So the strengths of this deck. So first of all, it's a really fun deck because you get to power up 1 card on your field and you get to attack multiple times with that card while drawing cards. So this is a very fun aspect of the deck once you get the full combo going. Another aspect is that it has very good card draw because His Name is Zangetsu draws you a card whenever you discard a card. And lastly, we have a very strong freeze effect with our Rukia that allows us to freeze an opposing card indefinitely until our Rukia is removed. That helps us freeze any big card that we can't really deal with at the time of, or it allows us to push for 1 final damage if that is something that we need that turn. The weaknesses of the deck, so like any other deck that plays 2 AP cards, there's a natural wonkiness to it because if we have 2 cards that cost 2 AP, we can't play them unless we have an AP restand card. So that definitely adds to the clunkiness of the deck. Also, we're very reliant on Raid Ichigo, which is the star of the deck, but if we don't see him or if he gets knocked out very early, we have a very hard time of coming back because our other cards are more support cards. Next, I want to talk about the jank removal that this deck has. So the 3-cost Getsuga Jujutsu is not like other specials because it can only sideline a character with 3,000 or less BP when the standard BP of most big cards of the game are 4,000. So you really have to combo it, for example, with another card like our Raid Ichigo to be able to knock out an opposing card with 4,000 BP. But because it's also the main card that we want to be discarding with our Raid Ichigo, it makes it a bit of a tough decision to decide which way you want to go about it to get maximal value. Also, the deck has an overall lack of impact cards, so in order to get through our opponent's defenses, we really have to set up double attackers with the Raid Ichigo, because late game it might be difficult to get through that 1 damage because we don't have any impact 1 characters. The initial grade of this deck is B+. So the final deck that we have is the Mayuri Corpse deck. So I call this the Copium deck just mostly because it is the less loved of all the new blue archetypes, mostly because if you add all the cards together, it doesn't even add up to 50 cards. That's why we have our 2 Ichigos here for consistency. So that's just something to consider when building the deck. So the best card of the deck is the 4-cost Mayuri Raid that says when played, choose up to 1 Nimue or Kurotsuki Corpse Unit Affinity character on your field, it gains 1000 BP and impact 1 until the end of the turn. Also activate main if on the front line once per turn. You can only activate this ability if a character on your field has been sidelined this turn. Play 1 blue Nemu card with 1 AP cost, or 1 blue character card with Kurotsuki Corpse Unit Affinity and 1 AP cost from your sideline set to resting onto your field. So if you see that naturally this card has synergy with sidelining on your turn. So how do we sideline cards on our turn? Well, we have the 4 cost 1 action point Mayuri that says when played, you may sideline 1 character on your field with Kurotsuki Corpse Unit Affinity. If you do, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line with BP equal to or less than the character's BP, sideline it and draw a card. We also have our 3 cost Nemu that says activate main once per turn, sideline 1 character on your field with Kurotsuki Corpse Unit Affinity. If you do, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Mayuri, Nemu, or Kurotsuki Affinity card among them and add it to your hand. Place the remaining cards onto the bottom of your deck in any order. And we also have our special of the deck, which is the 4 cost Who Gave You Permission to Yap Away that says sideline 1 Kurotsuki Affinity character on your field. If you do, draw a card, then play up to 2 blue character cards with fulfilled energy and 1 AP cost that are either Nemu or have Kurotsuki Affinity from your sideline set to active onto your field. And we also have the 3 cost Sight, which is the Kurotsuki Corpse Unit that says activate main once per turn, sideline 1 Kurotsuki Affinity character on your field. Also activate main, switch to resting once per turn. You can only activate this ability if a character on your field has been sidelined this turn. All Nemu or Kurotsuki Affinity characters on your field gain 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So what are the cards that we want to be sidelining? So we have our 2 cost Kensei that says when played, you may pay 1 AP. If you do play up to 1 Kensei card from your sideline set to resting onto your field, you can only activate this Kensei ability one time each turn. So basically when played, if you have another one in your sideline, you get to play it onto the field, but it is a hard once per turn, so the second one that is played cannot use its effect. So this is the max that you can do per turn. Other than that, you have your 2 cost Charlotte that says when sideline, if it is your turn, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line and switch it to resting. You can only activate this Charlotte ability 1 time each turn. So it's a very similar hard once per turn effect. Next, we have our 0 cost Lupi that says when sideline, place the top 2 cards from your deck into your sideline. And we have our 0 cost Siruchi that says when sideline, draw a card. So next I'll be showing a combo that this deck can do. So let's say this is your board and you play the 3 cost Sight and you're using its effect to sideline 1 Kurotsuki Affinity character onto your field. So in doing so, you're going to use the second effect of this card, which is activate main, switch to resting, and once per turn you're going to buff another Kurotsuki card by 1000 BP. So now your Charlotte is at 4000 BP. So next you're going to be playing your Mayuri that says when played, you may sideline 1 character on your field with Kurotsuki Affinity, and if you do, choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line. So basically you're going to be able to sideline an opposing character with 4000 BP because that is the BP that you sacrificed, and then you're going to draw a card. So the strengths of the deck are that your sideline acts as a toolbox because you'll be bringing back cards from your sideline, and ideally you'll be bringing back cards that will be appropriate for the situation that you are in. So this is a definite advantage of the deck. But I really think that's where it ends there because most of the deck are weaknesses. So you have a jank removal, mostly because your special cannot sideline opposing characters, and the only card that can do so is the 4 cost Mayuri. But as we saw, it takes a bit of setup to get to. So the next thing is that the deck lacks raids because you only have 4 raids in the deck, which are the 4 cost Mayuri. And also, it's not a good card to raid on your opponent's turn because the when played effect does not benefit you when it is done on your opponent's turn. Also, for decks like this that sacrifice their own characters, is that you have negative tempo. So even if you are sidelining 1 character to bring back 2, your cards that you are played for most of the time will come in rested, so you can't attack with them. So you'll always feel like you're a little bit behind because your cards will be coming rested even when you sideline them to summon others. Next, you have to set up the sideline, which may not be the easiest to do, especially in this deck, because there aren't that many cards that help you set it up. So there are a few, but mostly cards like this Ichigo will help you to draw 1 and trash a card to help set up your sideline for your cards that bring them back. So overall, I think this archetype is just really missing cards, especially from the fact that even with all the cards in the set, it doesn't go up to 50 cards. Initial grade, C. Alright, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe for more videos.